So come to this place here, just beside your name, click this plus and click new repository. Okay, you can do it that now. So you can say is you are going to give it a name. For assignment, you can call it assignment. You can call it assignments, whatever name you want to call it. So you can see if the name is not available, it's going to tell you. Make sure you leave this as public, otherwise I will not have access to it except you. If you make it private, only you can access it. And then click create repository. So I will create this just to explain. Do you all understand how to get to this point? Any question on how to get to this point? Is it clear?
It's clear, sir.
All right. So create repository. Once you click create repository, it's created. So now, suppose you've done your assignment in your Jupyter notebook. You create a Jupyter notebook. You've done your assignment there, and you have it on your desktop. So you want to upload it to your GitHub account. So what you do is click on uploading an existing file here. So when you do that, it's going to launch you here where you can choose your files. And suppose this is my assignment. Suppose this notebook, this list and dictionary that we're doing today, suppose that's the assignment. Remember, it will end with .ipynb. You are not the one that will name it that. Once you do this in Jupyter Notebook, it will automatically end with .ipynb. I will show you where to download this as .ipynb from your Jupyter Notebook. So open it, and then it's there already. You can see, then you can click commit changes. Once you click commit changes, it's going to process your files, and it's now there. So you will open it. I want you to open it. So once you open it, suppose this is your assignment. All I need is the URL. So is this URL, let me move this stuff. So all I need is this URL. So that's all I need.
Excuse me, sir. I missed this last step you took. My internet.
Where did you stop?
Where you clicked on after uploading the file, the next step you took, I didn't get that. My internet interrupted.
So after uploading it, this is what I did. So commit changes.
Yes, I got that.
Commit changes. So because I have already uploaded it before. So let me just go to assignment. So after you commit changes, let me see. Well, let me just choose the file. This is the file. It's going to tell me obviously the file exists. Blah blah. So this is the file, right? So click on the file itself, just to open it. That's all. Once you open it, all I need is this URL. So just copy it and go to your what's this called? Canvas. So once you go to your Canvas, this is your dashboard. So come to assignments. So click on assignments, assignments. So you're going to have, let me see. Let me switch to student view so that you can see. Let me switch to your own view. So this is what you have. So click on assignments. So let's say it's assignment 1. So start assignments and then paste your URL here like this and then click submit. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
If you click that, I will receive it. And then I'll grade the assignment, and then whatever feedback I give, you also receive a notification. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any question? Please ask question if you have. Okay, so I will assume we are good. Okay, so the notebook, we are using for today is we're going to finish up the strings and tuples, and then hopefully we should be able to cover list and dictionary. Let's see how far. So you can click on this and download it. Okay, download it. I already showed you how to upload your notebook to Anaconda, to Jupyter Notebook. I believe we all can do that. Like, come here, click on upload. If this is the notebook, just click it and open. And then you can upload it here. Okay? Are we all good before we start teaching? Are we good?
Good, sir. Proceed, sir.
All right. So last week we talked about strings, and we did some exercises on it. We looked at strings. We said strings are just any type of data surrounded with codes, be it single quote or double quotes. And we looked at different methods that we can apply on strings. We look at how to index strings. We said when you want to index a string, you use a square bracket, and then you can specify the index, the position that the strings are. And you can even slice it by using codes, things like that, like using something like this. This means from position 3 to the end. And remember, Python is zero index, meaning it starts counting from 0. So we look at all of that last week. We also look at some methods that can be applied on a string. One thing I told you is that a method and a function, they are similar in terms of what they do, but their names are different because of the way they are used. So I use an example of the len function. I said, if you want to use a function, you have to know the name of the function. So call the function, and inside parentheses, put the variable you want to apply the function on. But for method, you may not need to know the method offhand. So what you can do is call the variable, put a dot after the variable, and press your tab on your computer. It's going to pop out some things, like if you do str2, put dot and press tab, it's going to pop out all the method that you can apply on a string. So suppose I put a number here, 1, 2, 3, and I said I want to find the digit here. I want to find, let's say, digit. So I can do str2, full stop. So if I say this, I'm saying, suppose I put is digit here. I'm saying, does this string, is this string a digit? Is it a number? So anything that starts with is a question, and it's going to return true or false. So if I have a string here, let's say a string 1, 2, 3, and I said is 1, 2, 3 dot is digit, it's going to give me, let me copy this and put it in a new set so that you can understand what I'm saying. So suppose this is a string 1, 2, 3, or let's name it S1, and then put this method somewhere and put x1. Is s1 a digit? This should tell me true, even though it's a string, but it's a string that contains digits. So that's why it's going to tell me true. If I put ABC or ABS, it's going to tell me false because it does not contain a digit. So why? So I'm saying that anything that comes after the dot, any method, anything that comes after the dot is a method. All right. So one of the methods you can apply on a string is digit. There are a couple of them. Just play around them after you put dot and press tab. Play around them so know how they work and operate. Any question on function and method? Is it clear? Are we good? Any question? All right. Okay.
So
So
I still want to, personally myself, I would do what to go through the video from the previous class, but honestly, I'm still having challenges in grabbing all that you have been explaining.
So my question is, did
I'm
you
very
watch
sorry
the
for that.
video through the week? The video was uploaded on Monday. Did you watch it? Hello, did you? I'm asking a question. Did you watch the video?
I did not see any upload about the video. I did not notice
Can
it was uploaded.
you imagine? You did. So am I supposed to send you a message that the video has been uploaded? Check your Canvas dashboard. I told you to subscribe to Highly Tech YouTube. You did not. So follow the channel, follow us on LinkedIn. You did not. If you subscribe, you will receive a notification. Otherwise, check your Canvas dashboard. You are free to check your Canvas dashboard. You should be checking it every day. So this is the video. You can say Python videos. Look at this, the link to read. So I'm not supposed to send you a message that the video has been uploaded. So if you do your assignment, sorry, my voice is a bit harsh, and I have to, because you will do your job, I will do my job. If you do yours and you still don't understand, I'll be glad more than glad to go through this over and over. But if you don't do yours, I won't. So what you can do is watch every video is uploaded at most Monday, mostly that same Saturday or Sunday, but at most Monday. So you have 4 to 5 days to watch and rewatch and practice, pause, watch. As you are watching it, pause it, practice it, pause it. There's no way you won't get these things. So, but if you don't practice, you don't expect your brain can retain everything. Something you are new to for 1 week is not possible. So I will advise you to go back, watch the video and practice along while watching it. And then you can come back with questions. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay. So you have another string, and we talk about strip. I said strip, for instance, if you have some unnecessary white space, even both in the front or at the back, and you want to get rid of those spaces, you can just strip it out. So once you apply this method strip on this string S1, if you want to know how it works, once your cursor is inside this bracket, press Shift Tab. Sometimes it won't work. Sometimes you have to run the cell first before it will work. I don't know why it operates that way. So put down and press Tab. We want to use the strip. So if you don't know how it works, put this Shift Tab. Once your cursor is in the bracket, press Shift Tab. So look at how it works. It says it returns a copy of the string with leading, that's what is at the space at the back, and trailing, trailing white space. White space means space, remove. So if you have any space at any position in the string, if you apply the strip method to it, it's going to remove the spaces, just like this. So all this space and these, they are gone. So that is what strip does. And you can play around there. The last one, was it not, maybe Fumbi or Awele did a good job here. We said, we suppose the goal is to get 2016 here, and we want to split it. If you don't specify any delimiter here, you just do string.split. Remember, you don't need to memorize this method. Just put dot and press tab. So since you want to split it, there's a split method there. If you just press Shift Enter, it's not going to split anything, because by default, the split works with spaces. It's only going to look for a space in between the string. If it sees the space, it's going to split it. For instance, let me give you another example. Let's say we have a string called this is a boy. So if I do st out s2, that's the string, and do dot split, it's going to split this because there is a space in between this and is, in between is and a, in between a and boy. So there is a space. So if you apply split, it's going to split it, divide it. Okay, you can see. So it looks for a space that, and once it sees the space, it knows that once I see the space, that's the end of this particular word. So it breaks it down into pieces. Okay, but if it doesn't see any space, it will be confused. The only space it could see is at the back of 2016. So if I do str1 and do dot split, it's not going to split it because there is no space between these dates. So, but it gives an option. If there is no space, you can specify how you want it to split it. Since we can see dash here, we can say split it at every occurrence of the dash, meaning once it sees the dash, it knows that I've come to the end of this one. It sees another dash, I've come to the end of this number. So it's going to use that to split it. For instance, if I put semicolon here, what am I going to use to split it? Anybody?
Semicolon,
Hello?
sir.
Because
Semicolon.
if I don't put it, it's going to leave it like that. But you have to use the delimiter there. So use semicolon and then it will split it. So the same thing, if it's dash that is there, you have to use that delimiter there to split it. But if it is space, you don't have to specify space. By default, it's going to use the space there. And then once you have this, you can always assign the result of this to a variable. Since we know all of this is what will be saved here, and we know that we can use indexing to get this. What index is 2016? Anybody?
Index 2.
Index 2. So we can specify result, put a square bracket there because this is 0, this is 1, and this will be 2. So if we put 2 there, that will give you 2016. And suppose we want to convert it to a number. We can convert a string of numbers to an integer. There is a function called int. So remember I call it function, not method. Function means you have to know the function, open a bracket and put what you want to apply the function on. In this case is result index 2. So I want to convert the 2016 at index 2 of result to a number. So if I do that, it's no longer a string, but an integer. Any questions so far? Before we move to Tupu, any question, please? Hello, is it clear? Hello?
It's clear, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's move to tuple. So since you understand strings, the remaining ones, tuples, lists, it will be very fast for us because indexing is the same thing for string for all of them. The same way you index a string is the same way you will index a tuple, a list, except dictionary thereabout. But for tuple, list, and strings the same way. So that's going to be easy for us. But what's a tuple? So a tuple is just a data structure that is not mutable, meaning once you define a tuple, you cannot change it. You cannot change it. And how do you know this is a tuple? We know a string because it is wrapped around a quote, be it single quote or double quote. But how do we know this is a tuple? Once you see it in parentheses, round bracket, parentheses, we know this is a tuple. If I put square bracket there, it's no longer a tuple, it's now a list. But don't worry, we'll talk about list shortly. So, but round bracket there is what makes it a tuple. Okay? a tuple can contain different data types. Like here, you can see integers, you can see floats, you can see strings, and like that. So it can contain different data types. But the main thing you need to know is that tuple is immutable. For instance, let's try to change the second element to something else. Let's say we want to replace this second element 2 with letter B. So we say 2, 1. So look for the index. What index is 2? What index is 2 in this tuple? What's the index?
Index 1.
Index 1. So let's assign this equals to this string B. We should have error because once you have defined a tuple, you cannot change the elements inside. That's why we say it's immutable, meaning once defined, it cannot be changed. So the only way you can change it is to change tuple to something else, is to change the whole tuple, the data structure, like list. List is mutable. So except you can change the tuple to list and then replace the elements that we want to do and then convert it back to tuple. That's the only way. But if it is a tuple, you cannot change the elements. Any question, please? Are we good? Is that clear? All right. Okay. So the question is, how do you change it to a list? So let's call this tuple list. So what there is a function called tuple. Okay. Tuple. You can see as soon as I write tuple, it changes to green. That's to tell you, that's the beauty about Jupyter Notebook. It gives you different color for different things. So that tells you that tuple is a function. So let's convert it to a list. So once I type play, you can see the color is also green. So let's convert this tuple1 to a list. So list is a function. So this will convert all of this to a list. Before you assign it to a variable, see the results. You can see it's now a list, no longer a tuple. Why do we say it's a list and not a tuple? Anybody?
The bracket.
Yes, the bracket is now a square bracket. Remember, tuple is this parenthesis, this round bracket. Okay, so we can assign this to a variable of your choice. So once you do this, we know the result. This one will be saved here. And then we can now replace it. We can now replace the second element, what we wanted to do before, with letter B. So once we do this, we know it will be changed. But we now have to, if we want to convert the result back to tuple, we now have to, let's call it tuple result. So we have, there's also a function called tuple, just like we have list as a function. We have a function called tuple. Wrap your result, this tuple list, wrap it back there, just like how you converted tuple to list, the same way. And then we can call the result to see. You can see so much steps just to replace. That's painful, you know. But I mean, that's because you cannot change the element of a tuple once you have defined it. Is it clear? If you have any question, please feel free to ask now. All right, indexing, I'm only going to do this in question and answering is because it's the same way we index a string. All right, so what would this result be? Suppose we have a tuple called Avengers that has Iron Man, Vision, Thor, and Hulk. What would the result of Avengers 1:3 gives us? Anybody?
Yes, sir. It's going to give
A list.
a list. No, it's going to be a tuple. containing Iron Man, Vision, and Thor.
So do you all agree with that? He said the result is going to be a tuple starting from Iron Man, Vision, and Hulk. Do you all agree with that?
No, sir.
Okay, so what's your own?
It will be a tuple that contains Vision and Thor.
That's right. Because it's one. Remember, Python is 0 index. You start counting from 0, not 1. So 1 means the second one. And remember, it's not going to, just like our late taught us last night, that it's not going to include the last element. So if I put 1:3, it's just going to stop at 2. So it's going to pick Vision and Thor. So thank you so much for that. So that's that, Vision and Thor. What if we do Avengers, this one colon? What's it going to give us? Anybody?
It's going to give us a tuple with containing Vision, Thor, and Hulk.
Yes, it means start from the second element to the end. That's all. So Vision, Thor, and Hulk from the second element. Okay. Dimeji, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
Please take note of the people around, and those who are not around, please remove them from the WhatsApp group, because I'm going to drop them from the Canvas dashboard, from the course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So send me the list as soon as we end this class.
Okay, sir.
All right. Okay, so the third one, this one, Avengers colon 3. What does this what's this going to give us? Anybody? Let's make this fast. Yes, colon 3.
That would be the first set of names and the last name. The first two sets of name and the last. That's Iron Man, Vision, and Hulk.
Iron Man, Vision, and Hulk. So why is it going to exclude Thor? I don't mean you are wrong, but I'm just wondering why. And I don't mean you are right. So why is it going to exclude Thor? Why Iron Man, Vision, and Hulk?
I really don't know how to explain that.
What?
I really don't know how to explain that.
Okay, that's fine. Who wants to help out?
Okay, I think it will include the last element, sir.
Yes, it's actually going to be, this means 0 to 2. So let's see. So this is 0 to 2. Remember, it's not going to include the last Hulk. Hulk is not going to include, not Thor. So it's just going to be from the beginning to a number before 3. So 0, 1, 2. That's that. Okay, and remember, if you do -1, it means give me the last element. So that's negative indexing. Okay, so that's just Hulk, the last element. So the same way we did our indexing is the same thing we're doing here. And unpacking is the same as when we're defining a variable. If you have a tuple that contains 1, 2, 3, because there are 3 elements, if you want to unpack the elements, you have to unpack them into 3 variables. If I choose 2 variables, I'm definitely going to get error, because it expected 3 variables, and I'm giving, it expected, 3 variables if I want to pack these 3, but I gave 2. So, or if it expected me to supply 2 values to them since I have 2 variables. So remember that. So that's that about it. Another thing, functions, we can remember these are functions now. So we can choose to find the minimum, the maximum. Suppose I have a number here and I want to find the minimum. So there's a function called min. You can find the minimum of this tuple. You can find the maximum. Minimum means the smallest number, the smallest element. Okay, the smallest number in this tuple is 15. The maximum max is 510. So that's it. So these are functions you already know in your mass, minimum, and maximum. So the short form min will give you the minimum, the max will give you the max. But someone will now say, what about you want to find the mean, average. How do you find that? Anybody? How do you now find the average? Hello? Fumbi, are you there? I've not heard you today. Yes? You want to try?
To put average or me? Oh,
You have an idea?
no, sir. But I feel since
Okay.
you can say maximum,
Hello.
you can say me
What?
or
Ready?
average. I said
Okay.
since you can say max, can't you say average? AV,
Every word.
AVG or AV. I don't know.
Okay. Well, in SQL, when we get to SQL, there is a function average or AVG, but in Python, there's no function like that. Who want to help out? Thank you, Fumbi. Who want to help out? Awele, do you want to help out?
Yes, sir.
Okay. A few. Okay. Yeah.
Function that we can use to find the average, unless
What?
we do it. I don't know the
Okay.
Python function that we can use to find the average, unless we do the normal way that we know in maths to find average.
How? How?
You can sum of everything in the tuple divided by the number of elements there.
So,
I don't know.
so how do you find the number of elements in it?
Can learn function work for it too?
That's right. That's right. That's very correct. So when we get to NumPy, by the time we start working with data, I suppose that after 2 weeks' time, we should start working with data, whereby I'm going to give you data and then that's when it gets interesting. All these are still boring. So you'll be introduced to NumPy and pandas. And so those ones, they have functions that you can use to find mean and all of that. So, but we have to import them because they are not in they do not come with the basic Python. So to do it, find the average, we'll work with what I will listen. So we have to sum them, add everything together, and divide it by the number of elements here. So there is a function called sum, but to find the number of elements, we don't remember. Someone could have said we just divide it by 5, but what if you don't know how many numbers are there? So it's better get used to not do things manually if you are programming. So we'll find the len. We learned about len last week that is going to give you the number of elements there. So if you do this, that will work. That will give us 124.66, and that's very correct. Any question about that? Thanks, Awele. Any question about this? We good? Okay.
Good, sir.
I'm sorry, I have a question concerning Tupu, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sir, is there a way we can access the elements in the tuple, just as where we access elements of a list?
How you can access? Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
I thought that was what we're doing here. And indexing too. I thought that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Okay.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
All right. So do I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So let's move to list. So I expected you to have downloaded this stuff before now. So list is also going to be fast, but we're going to end up with all we're going to do today is list because of the time. And next week we should move to dictionary and functions. Once we do functions and loop, I think we are good to start working with data. We'll be done with basic Python at most, maybe next week or 2 weeks time at most. And then we can start working with real data science work. Okay. All right. So list, I stylishly introduced list while talking about tuple. One thing you need to know is that tuple is immutable, but list is mutable. Mutable means you can change the elements there. You can update the element. And You can put, like tuple, it can contain different data types. It can even contain another list, just like you're seeing here. One, these are integer, this is string, this is another list of strings, this is a float, so it can contain different data. But just know that a list is mutable, and that was why we said if you want to change the element of a tuple, since a tuple is not mutable, convert it to a list first and then change the element. And if you like, you can convert it back to a tuple. All right? So the same way we index a string and tuple is the same way you index list. So that is the same. All right? That was why we started with strings so that the journey can be smooth. All right? So by now, those of you who started with zero knowledge, because from the look of things, it seems some already have some basic idea, but for those who started with zero level, you should begin to feel confident, at least about some little things like strings, tuple, and they're about list now. Okay? So this is a list. We can access the element just like anything. If you want list one, if you want the first element, you see 0 the same way. It's going to give us 1. And if we want this list, this is 0, 1, 2. This list is 3. So this 3 is going to give us the list. And if I want Apple in the list, I will have to first get the list itself, which is at index 3. And then the index 3 is also a list, and its Apple is at position 0 in this particular list, right? So I can just put another square bracket and put 0. So this means in this list 1, look for index 3. And that's 0, 1, 2, 3. And in that index 3, which is a list, give me the first element. And that's why we have another square bracket and put 0 there. And that's it. Or you can first decide to save the result of the list to something so that your new will be is this, and then you can now index the new the same way. So different ways to do the same thing. Is it confusing? I hope this is clear. Am I too fast? Emmanuel? Okay. Is it clear?
Very, very clear, sir.
All right, thank you. Okay. So the same way you do this and all of that. So unpacking is the same thing. We can unpack 2 elements, 2 values into 2 variables, 3 into 3, the same way. Now, where I'm going to spend the bulk of my time on is list comprehension. And that we introduce, and I will stylishly use that to introduce it to loop. So that by the time we get to loop, in fact, after list comprehension, we may decide not to do loop again because we'll do it here. And this is where you will do this. And this is interesting to me. So I will quickly skip that and move to slicing, updating, deleting, and then we'll come back to list comprehension. Okay, because that's where we'll end today's, what we will do before you do the exercise. All right, so slicing is the same way. So let's just revise with 2 examples. How do we get from Iron Man to Thor in these Avengers? Anybody, please, let's be quick about this. Let's be fast. Iron Man to Thor in this Avengers list. Hello? Go ahead, Yaku. Okay, anybody? I think his network is not.
Okay, yes. Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, square bracket. Zero.
The network is not clear, so someone else can help out.
Can you hear me now?
Please just go ahead and say, yeah, what it was. I can hear you.
Okay, 0 to 4, sir. Column You can put
0
0,
to
you can just put colon then 4.
All right, so I said I want Iron Man to Thor. So I'm not saying you're wrong or right. So is this correct? Anybody?
It's actually wrong. I think it's wrong.
Okay, what should it be?
What did you say, sir? What's the question?
So that should be from Iron Man. That should be 1.
Yeah,
Up
so
is 0.
maybe
You
I
know,
put
index
Okay, 1.
starts.
hello. So I want it from Iron Man to Thor, not from up.
Okay,
So
1.
remember,
1.
Python is 0 index. So this will be 1, and that's that. Okay. So the same way you slice is the same thing. So I'm going to skip this. Updating, I stylishly thought updating while explaining tuple. Updating means changing elements there. You just need to know the index of the element you want to change. If here we want to change Captain, want to update it to Captain America. So find the index. So this is 0, 1, and 2. So call this list, specify the index to, and then assign it to whatever you want to update it with, which is in this case is Captain America. So that way we now have, so if I call back my Avengers now, that would have been updated. So that's it. You can see it's now Captain America, no longer Captain. So you can update a list. Deleting, you can use the del keyword to delete. You can delete anything. Here we want to delete the first element, the awk. So if you run del and put the variable name and put the position of the element, that would delete the variable you want to delete there. Okay. So if I call the variable now, CW, now you can see awk has been deleted. It's now starting from Iron Man. So that is deleting. All this one doesn't really have much. So let me move back to, let me see. Okay, so let's talk about some Inoperator.
Sorry, I have a question, please.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Is it possible, what you deleted now, is it possible we restore it back?
The only way you restore it back, no, if you do that. So except you rerun the cell, you know, in Jupyter Notebook, you can rerun the cell. So except I rerun it this way again and do this. So it's not, so in other words, once you do that, it's done. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let's look at some Inoperator is just, I've used this in string. Like if I want to check if a string is in this, I can do that. Just same way we can say, oh, if let's say awk, if awk in this variable Avengers, what do you do? Print yes, S, print no. So notice that when I use if, I end it with colon. Just note that when I use if, it's going to end with colon. Once you put colon and press enter, Python will indent it for you because you cannot start at the beginning here again. It will indent it. So Python normally follow 4 spaces. 4 spaces. It doesn't mean you can't use 2 spaces, but if you use 2, you have to make sure you are consistent all through the code you are running. It has to be 2 spaces. And if you're using 4, it has to be 4 all through. But you don't have to memorize this. So once you put colon, just press enter. Python will indent it for you by itself. Otherwise, if I mistakenly start here, just press tab. It will bring it back to that position. But notice that when I want to use S, because if an S goes together, I must start at the same line that if starts from. That's why I move the stuff. If I press this, it will make sure I continue, but I have to move it back and then continue my S. After S2, you can see I put colon and then press enter before the next thing. So notice that when you are using, if though we are still going to look at this control structure, but just for you to have to understand why we are ending it with colon, why we are not starting at the beginning, we are following the indentation. Python reacts to indentation. Indentation means your spacing. Python reacts to it very well. If I put this now and put this now, you can see it turned into red, telling me something is wrong. And if I run, it's going to tell me it's worked, because it's not as if it cannot work, but it's telling me something is wrong. Let's see this now. So that's because he didn't get to S. So let me use a name that is not there and watch what it's going to do. So it still work, but this will in most time be giving you error if you run, and indentation can lead to frustration. So make sure you are consistent with your indentation. Most times you don't need to do anything by yourself. Just allow Python to do it by itself. Once you put colon, press enter, and it will indent it by itself. Okay? So that's how the Inoperator works. Please, if you have questions, please feel free to ask now. Yes, Shane?
You wrote Orca in your vengeance. Okay, you intentionally wrote it, sir.
I intentionally wrote it just to show it's not here. Okay, yeah. All right. So yeah, so that's that. There are just like we have functions. Okay, well, let's look at function. Just like I showed you function in Tupu, like min, max, you can do that here. You can find the minimum of this list, we can find the maximum, and we can find the average just like we did there, the same way. So I will not waste time on that. And then list, I showed you the list function when we were trying to convert a tuple to a list. And remember why we're converting a tuple to a list is because we said a tuple is immutable. So once you define a tuple, and that tuple, you cannot change. If you want to change it, convert to a list. And we said to convert to a list, just wrap the tuple inside the list function, like list, and then passing the tuple there. Once you do that, that will convert the tuple to a list. Do you understand? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any question, please? Any question? Okay. Let's look at another function. There is a function called sorted, and there is a method called sort. I said function called sorted and method called sort. The two they do the same thing. But remember, we said a function and a method, they are different in their name because of how they are used. So a sorted is a function. So to apply it, let's say we have a list. We want to sort this. We can do it two ways. We can use a sorted function or a sort method. Let's use the function first. If you want to use the function, you have to know the name of the function called sorted, then pass your list there. But one thing is that once you use a function, you won't see the result except you call back the list. So once we are going to sort it here, and then we'll call the list, we'll call it back. So the result would have been sorted. So we can see it's not giving me, because it's not going to save the result. You can see. So I call sorted on it. The result is going to be this, but the result is not saved unless I save it in a new variable on its own, like result. And then if I call result we carry the sorted result. But function on its own is not going to save the result. So if we just call sorted on the list, it's not going to save the result. That's what function does. But if we call method, a method will sort it in place. In place means when you sort it using a method, the result will affect the original list. For instance, let's call the list 1. To apply a method, we'll put dots. And what did I say we're going to press?
Tab.
Tab. So press tab. You see, the list, so these functions, they are particular to list, not the same as string, if you observe. So Jupyter Notebook is so smart that it can see, it understands what you are working on presently. If you are working on a list, it's going to give you function, a method particular to a list. If you are working on a string, it's going to give you method particular to a string. So that's it. So let's look for sort, and it ends with round bracket. So I don't need to call back list one. This is going to give me, it's going to sort it, but save, effect the change in the original list. So I have to, let me call the list one back. You see now that it has been sorted, because this will sort it in place. Meaning after it's sorted, it's going to affect the original list. So that's what a method does. But a function will not save the results. No. I expect question on sorted and sort if it's not clear to you. Ayomide, is it clear to you?
Yes, yes, very well.
All right. Okay, so remember, sort we affect the change in the original list, but sorted as a function will not. It will only give you the result, but it will not affect the original list. So we already start method, which is sort. There are other ones. Append. Append will be very, very useful to you when we start to work with for loop and all of that, or strings. Yeah, it will help you. Most times when you are working with a list, you will use append a lot. Suppose that I have a list here, or suppose I have a number. Let me just introduce you to for loop just for example's sake. Suppose I have a list called, let's say I have a list like 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, and then 10. Suppose I want to go through this list and I want to save every even number here. Every even number. Even numbers are numbers that when divided by 2, they give you a remainder of 0. So for instance, 2 is an even number, 8 and 10. So if this will move me back to list comprehension, because list comprehension is just a way, another concise way for loop. But let me use for loop. Suppose I want to save my result in Avengers. I have an Avenger, which is an empty list, but I want to go through this list one and save my result of even numbers to Avengers. So anytime you want to go through a list, go through something, that is for loop. Go through it one by one. So I will do for anything. Let me just use a counter called num. Anything. You can use anything, but I'm using num. Some people use for I. Anything. For I in my L1. For 2 we end with colon. Don't worry about this follow. I will explain when we get to follow. But I just want to show append. Then I said for I in L1, the first time I is going to pick 2. The next time it's going to pick the next number. The next time it's going to pick this. So the first time it picks 2. So I is representing 2. And I'm saying if I divide I by 2. Remember, we talk about modulo to be remainder. This I modulo 2, percent time in modulo. It means if I divide I by 2, what's the remainder? So I'm saying if the remainder of dividing I by 2 is 0, since that's the definition for even number, what should happen? Anytime you use for and if, you must end with colon. What should happen? Append the result to Avengers. So I will call Avengers. Append is a method in list. So press tab, append I to read. All this is going to do, this code, this one says, go through my list one by one. The first time I is going, it picks 2. Then it checks, it comes to the next step. I is now 2. 2% 2 means 2 divided by 2 is the remainder equals to 0. If that is correct, it's going to append, meaning put the result here, and then it pick the next number. I is now 3. It checks. I divided by 3, the remainder is not 0. So it's going to skip it and move. It's not even going to come to this step because the remainder is not 0. It picks 5, it does the same thing. The remainder is not 0, so it doesn't come here. It comes back here. It picks 7 until it gets to 8 again. It checks. 8 divided by 2 is 4. The remainder is 0. So it appended. Append means it's going to keep stacking them to the back of whatever is there. So the first one will be 2, this will be 8, this will be 10, because these are even numbers. If I call Avengers now, Avengers will no longer be empty list. It will now be 2, 8, and 10. It's getting interesting and tougher. So it's better you start asking questions. But don't worry, we're still going to look at for loop on very well. Yakuba has a question. But unfortunately, I cannot hear you. Your speaker is not coming out. So any question, but don't worry about for loop. I just wanted to show you append. Any question about that? Is it clear on append?
Fine, sir.
All right, okay, cool. Okay, append is very similar to extend. It's just that as from the English name, extend. So after this now, I'm going back to list comprehension. So extend is more like, look, okay, let me show this by example. I have 2 lists. So first time I'm going to append Avengers 2 to Avengers 1. And then next I will extend Avengers. So let's append Avengers 2. So you can code completion pressing tab. So that's what I've been doing. Once you're typing, you just press tab. If the name is there, it will complete it for you. Okay, so let's see the result of this. So let's type Avengers 1 bar. You can see it just carries this Avengers 2 and dump it inside Avengers 1. That's what append will do. And that's what I kind of showed you here. It's going to put it at the end. It's just going to carry everything and dump it there. But extend does it differently. From the word extend, I don't need the list. All I need are division and sum. Just carry them and put them in Avengers 1. That's all. You don't need to give me as a list. So let's use extend to see. So let's check Avengers 1 now. You can see. So that's the difference. Extend, we use the elements there to drop it in the first list, but append will carry everything as a list and drop it there. Is it clear? Any question? Please ask question. Joseph.
Please, can you say it again?
Okay.
Can you come again?
Let's use append. That's what I'm saying. So when you use append means carry Avengers 2. Since we are appending Avengers 1 by Avengers 2, it means carry this Avengers 2, drop it at the end of the list of Avengers 1. That's what it's going to do. So it's going to carry everything as a list. So when you do that, let's run Avengers 1. You see, it carries it as a list, including the square bracket. So, and so if you want to index them, it's going to be different, meaning you are going to be getting a list. But if we do extend, we go into the Avengers 2 list and carry the elements on their own and drop it there, not as a list together, but as an individual element. So if we run this now and run Avengers 1, you can see Vision and Sam, they are not a list. They are now part of Avengers 1 as individual elements. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's end this with list comprehension, because that's the bulk of what you are going to do today in the exercise. So, and thank God I've introduced it to for loop. So let me do the same thing I did. Let me even start from here. List comprehension. Let me start from this same example and use list comprehension. So there is no way as a Python enthusiast or programmer that you will not use list comprehension. You will use it even by the time we start working with data, that you will mostly use it all the time. And if you grow in this field that you want to move to AI, like natural language processing, this will be your list comprehension will be your favorite tool. Okay, we have a list called L1. Let's bring it there. We want to do the same thing. We want to go through this list and we want to print the even numbers. This time let's do the odd numbers. So the same for loop. However, we're going to put all of this for loop inside a list. That's why it's called list comprehension. So let's call the list result. And I'll be slow here so that you can get it. Remember, the first thing you want to do, most times, put what you want to do in comment. So the first time, we want to go through the list one by one. The next thing, we want to get the odd numbers. Odd numbers are numbers that when divided by 2, they have a remainder of 1. To get a remainder, remember we use the percent sign, that's modulo. These are the 2 steps we want to do. So to go through the list one by one, that is for loop. We have to use a loop, okay? It's just like going through the rooms of your house one by one. You have to use a loop, okay? So that's where we start from. But we do everything inside a list, a square bracket. So we do for. We can still use I. This doesn't mean you can use I, you can use anything. For I, or I can use for num, standing for number, in what? In what?
In L1.
L1. Thank you. That's the list we want to go through. For I in L1. So we will not use a colon if we are doing it inside a square bracket. That's why it's called list comprehension. We will not put this colon. No, because we are doing it in a list. So for num in L1, that stands for this line. The next line is for num in L1, give me the num. I will explain this now. If I divide my num by 2 and the remainder is 1. That's all. Now, why did I put this num at the beginning? Your result, what you want to print is what goes to this position, the beginning of the list. If I don't put this list, I won't have any, if I don't put the number, I won't have any results. It will even tell me error because it's expecting me to put, what's the result I want to print? That's this num. Why is it num? Because I'm using num. If I use I here, then I'm saying for I in L1, remember the first time is 2. If I, which is 2 divided by 2, give me a remainder of 1, print it. That's all. S, I mean, I didn't put S, but I can put S there too. Or S, print odd, things like that. So I can put that too. But so this is just going to do for I in L1. So the first time it picks 2. If 2 divided by 2 gives a remainder of 1, print it. Then it checks them one by one like that. That's all. But just remember that your result must be at what you call at the beginning of the list. So most time I normally write all this before specifying this. That's why I started with 4. For I in L1, print the result if I divided by 2 as a remainder of 1. That's all. So if I call my results now, that will be it. 3, 5, 7. Those are the odd numbers. If I put 0, then it should give me 2, 8, and 10. Please ask question here, because this is where you will be using this a lot. So I want, if there be one thing you are picking out of this class today, it should be list comprehension. Please ask question if it's not clear now, please. Is it clear, Caleb?
It's clear, sir.
Okay.
It's clear, sir.
It's always clear to you. Ayomide, Awele, is it clear? Fumbi?
It's clear, sir.
It's clear, sir.
All right. So let's try other question now. So let's say we want to, and I'm going to throw this one to you. Let's say we want to, so the question is, write a program. So maybe you should start now. Write a program. So given a number 1 to 20, so write a program to generate the square, to generate the square, let's say the square root, to generate the square root of numbers 1 to 20. Using list comprehension, write a program to generate the square root of numbers 1 to 20. And I'm going to give you 2 minutes. 2 minutes too much, 1 minute. If you're using your laptop, you can put the code in the chat box. But if you want me to write it, you want to call the code, you want me to write it, I'll gladly do that. Yes, I immediately want to try.
A second, sir. I'm coming, sir.
Okay. Yes, who want me to write it for him or her? Fumbi, do you want me to write for you? Just call the code for me.
I want to try, sir.
All right, Rafiu. Yeah, let's put as a result too. Let's or RES. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I came across a function that is square root, a math function that is square root.
No, I don't want to use a function.
So
if you want to use a function,
wow,
import math. Right? Okay, go ahead. Import.
Yes.
Import it, right?
Yes.
So that's why I don't want, but no problem. All right, go ahead.
So to be the same function, okay, it will not be square root of I, that's our output first, according to the way you just thought of.
Tell me how I'm going to write it. Okay.
SQRT.
Am I calling math first?
No, yes, math.
Okay.
Math dot SQRT into I.
Mm-hmm.
So outside it for I.
Mm-hmm.
List of 1 to 20. A minute, sir. No, I'm not checking anyways. I just want to think.
Okay, someone pays them something.
Okay, range. Yes.
Okay, range. Yeah.
What the person posted, the person just helped me.
Dimeji, I didn't ask you to put anything in the chat. For I in range. So Dimeji, please next time don't do that again. For I in range 20, find the square root. Okay, so that's correct. But Dimeji, please don't do that again. Yeah, it's for learning. Let people learn. So why is it not working? Because anyway, it's not from the code. It's this. Yeah. Okay. So that works. So that works. So that's it. But if you don't have a function, you can just use what the major said. Remember, the exponent is double asterisk. So raised to power 0.5 will stand for square root. These are just basic mathematics, okay? So I think maybe I can allow you to explore by yourself now, since you have the idea using this. I mean, we'll complete it next class, but maybe I should allow you to explore using this exercise to develop more of your skills in list comprehension and follow. But before I stop that so that you can do that in the breakout